So the one I'm going to draw right now is going to be this one you see down in the bottom corner. Now it doesn't have a full head, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at this being, it's called like a three-quarter pose, three-quarter pose, and a three-quarter pose is when it's looking slightly to the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one line. That one line is going to represent like the center of the face. This is going to be a line that if I drew it on my own face would be right between the eyes and right where the nose is. What I'm looking at is the sort of tilt that you see right over here. And then what I'm going to do is, since we only have that one side, we'll kind of just work on that little sort of profile. Now, will I know if it's exactly right just by drawing something on the paper? No, I won't know if it's exactly right just by drawing something on the paper. What I need to do is put it on the paper and look at it. All of you guys know when something doesn't look right. And, you know, the only difference between, you know, a professional artist and yourselves is really that, you know, sometimes you're afraid that you can't do it better than whatever you just put down on the paper. So what you see is I've sort of laid down what I'm looking at as my sort of profile. You see it's got this sort of bump in where the eye is going to be, and then I've got a little bit of the cheek. So I like to draw this sketchy sort of way, and when it doesn't look right, as you can see what I'm doing right now, I sort of like add a little bit more, subtract a little bit more. Now I've got a basic layout of where this face is going to be. Now what I want to do is, before I start spending time on the details, is I'm going to kind of lightly sort of place out where features are going to be. So in this case, I want to kind of take a look that it's not too much space between the mouth and the chin. Maybe it goes a little bit lower than that. So I'm just going to kind of lightly indicate where I might want to draw that. Okay, I'm going to take a look and try to see, all right, the nose, this is my center over here. I'm going to take a look and see the nose is pretty close to that mouth. It's low in the face. Just lightly pencil something in. And before I spend any time on details, I'm going to work on just laying out the basic shapes of like the eyes. Now one is a little bit bigger. Generally what you're going to find in a three-quarters pose is the one on this side of the face, not where you see the profile, but the longer side of the face is always going to be a little bit bigger. Now the way I do this is really so I can kind of see what it looks like before I spend time with those details and things. So if I want to make a major change to anything, now's the time I would do it. In this case, I feel like I'm pretty close, and really now I can invest a little bit more time in those details. And you'll see at this point when I come in for the details, that's when I'm going to start drawing just a little bit darker. I don't like to draw dark unless I'm pretty confident about where things are. And by the way I just did it, I sort of laid out the entire face before I started working on details. So if something wasn't right, I could fix it while all my drawing's pretty light. When I wait and I do, like, let's just say if I had just finished the eye first and drawn the eye and gotten it all perfect and everything else like that, well, you know what, I might not want to change or erase it if it's wrong, you know, especially if I've spent a lot of time on it. But by working relatively quickly like this, it kind of gives me the chance to say, like, listen, I can see where I screw up, I can get rid of it, and then I can spend that time sort of refining it, and then later on really kind of make it perfect. So, you know, again, it's not the only way to work, and I know a lot of you just kind of like to just draw it out and just work on those details first, but by laying it out first, it really gives you the opportunity to check and correct yourself as you're working. And if you watch any videos from like famous artists like Jim Lee or Todd McFarlane, you know, you'll see the way they draw their characters, Spider-Man and, you know, Batman and stuff like that. They've drawn them 10,000 times. But what they still do, even though they know this character backwards and forwards, is they spend some time to kind of block it out and rough it out just the way you're seeing me do it. So that'll be my first one. Off of that one, I'll pull up a different sort of setup here. Let's see. Anybody want to, let's see if I can get in closer with that. Anybody want to pick out a Superman for me to do? I'm taking requests today. Anybody? All right, I'll do a profile since I haven't done a profile. All right, and with profile is obviously that side view of the face. Now, how do we break this one down? It's a little bit different. Well, the same thing. We want to look for our angles. All right, we want to look for how to sort of think about the basic shape. So I'm looking at like that angle of his forehead and of his nose. I'm looking for that angle of his mouth. So like, how is that basic profile? Where is it? And by putting and working on all these parts at the same time, kind of gives me the chance to kind of make corrections and changes. Now we see he's got, you know, a very, you know, the sort of excited or scared look on his face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to mark those things off really quick, and I'm going to look at my picture. Now what I see right away is I'm looking at mine and I'm looking at the photograph, and I don't think I got it just yet. I feel like the forehead and the nose are just this sort of like step down over here, but I don't quite have the mouth yet. I think this part's a little bit too long. So this is where, you know, you need something on the paper to sort of react to and change. And even after all this drawing that I've done, I still need, you know, to see what it looks like on the paper. I look at that lower lip, the lower lip down here. I look at, you know, where this is, and then the lower lip is a little bit inside there. So I'm going to kind of just move that backwards a little bit, and obviously I'm going to give him a little bit more chin. His chin sort of juts out a little bit more. I'm going to take a look at what that gives me, and I think that I'm a little bit closer. I'm going to spend a little time kind of refining that, seeing how it goes down into the neck and where it goes down to the neck. But if you notice, what I'm doing is that I'm always like lightly sketching it onto the paper, so that way I have something to look at. You can't know that it's in the right place. You got to see it. And the only way to see if your drawing is right is to physically draw it. So, you know, by putting something down and saying like, oh no, the shape of the ear needs to be lower and it needs to be a little bit rounder, maybe that'll make an adjustment. And what I'll do is I'll just simply go to my drawing and just move it over a little bit, and nudge it over lightly. And by working lightly, I still always have the ability to come back in and fix things later. So I'm starting to feel a little bit better about this profile. I want to kind of round things off a little bit more and sort of work a little bit on this feature here. So you see the nose is really not that much. So I'm going to add a little bit of the detail, only so I can try to get a feel for it. So I made the initial mark for his eyes here, and I realized there's not enough space on the bridge of his nose. His eye's a little bit further back. So, you know, this is another case where put something on the paper and look at it. You know, I think that don't treat it as a precious drawing, that everything that you're going to do has to be totally finished and totally done right off the bat. You want to kind of look at it as that your drawing is always something that you're trying to fix, and that the detail part of it really doesn't need to be part of it until you know where everything is going to lay out. So contrary to how many of you probably work, you guys generally probably don't. You all kind of work on one little part at a time, make sure that looks perfect, and then work on another little part at a time and make sure that looks perfect. But if you can lay out the entire sort of layout of the face, or whatever it is that you happen to be drawing, you can always come back and add details. What you'll find out later on is that the details really are they're not easy all the time, but they're, in a way, they're easier because, you know, when you know where they're supposed to go, they just take time. So you can see just kind of adjusting and changing, adding a little bit here and there, and refining it. And again, a finished drawing sometimes takes a lot of time, but getting that basic layout, and really that's our sort of crux of it. And again, now's the time that I start to feel a little more confident in what I have on the piece of paper. This is when my dark mark making will start coming out to sort of almost, we call inking the drawing, starts happening. But, you know, there is no secret to know where something is supposed to go. Like, well, if I put the chin and the edge here, it's going to be perfect. There's no way to know that for certain. The only thing that you can do is look at your drawing and say, well, that doesn't look right. And what doesn't look right about it? And how does it look wrong? Is it too big? Is it too wide? Is it too skinny? Is it too long? And then nudging it to a place where you think it needs to be. I'm not going to go fully into the hair, but just like I did with some of the other ones, and when I demoed hair, is that I'm going to kind of make my marks going in the same direction as the hair is sort of going. And again, I'm taking requests today, so I'm going to try to do some more complicated heroes. Maybe my nose isn't just right, or didn't get it just right, but you see it's relatively pretty close. Not my best Superman, but I'll take it. Let's see. Anybody want to pick anything off this sheet for me to draw? Anybody out there who's still with me?
Can you do Batman?
Batman, the regular Batman? Sure. Whoop. Let's get him first. Okay. All right. Different look, different sort of outfit and everything else like that. But, you know, it's same thing is breaking it down in shapes. Just like I started the other one, the 3/4 pose, I'm going to start with a line of symmetry. Just a little angle over here that's going to help me decide the tilt and the look of Batman. So I'm going to just put that down the center over here. Now, Batman's head is a lot more boxier and sort of rectangular than some of the demos that I did before, obviously because of the cape and the cowl. So instead of starting off with that circle like I did for the demos the other day, I'm going to start off with something that's a little bit more square. And, you know, let me just try to make sure that my line of symmetry is really down the center of that. So I've got the start of his head. Maybe he's looking down, and you can see the length of his face. Really sort of that square jaw that we talked about a little bit with that superhero jaw. So his head is a little bit more geometric. Gonna add a little bit over there. All right. Give him a little bit of his neck and everything else like that. And I decide how much space do I need, where does the nose need to be. And that's sort of the bottom part of that. I'm just going to rough it out and see what that looks like. I got to think about where I want to place the eyes. Alright. Got that little bit over there. I'm going to look at, like, he's got these heavy sort of eyebrows. That'll kind of help me lay out the rest of it. Got the rest of his sort of headpiece, the cowl. Looking at it, feel decent about my thing so far, and then it's really about getting that silhouette. So what we've seen right now is that pretty quickly I've sort of laid everything out. So if I don't like what I see or where things are at, now's the time where I can start changing them and then nudging them out a little bit, saying, oh, well, this has got to come out just a little bit wider, a little bit more here. We got a little bump for his ear. I'm going to try to establish where do I want to put that mouth. And he's got that sort of under the lip, that sort of crease for his chin. Taking a look at it, I feel all right about it. I think I don't really like my initial placement of the eyes. Let me just see. It's more the tilt of them. I didn't get the tilt right. So I'm going to spend now a little bit more time over here with these eyes and trying to get just a little bit higher, and just looking exactly at how the artist who particularly did this one, how the shape goes. I'll keep them relatively similar, but again, face is not completely symmetrical. Once a hit for him, it's mostly about the the cowl and everything else like that. So once I have that kind of where I want, I think the rest of it is really just starting to get into some of those details. And the details can take some time, but I'm going to focus first on the eyes and the mouth, because the nose really isn't there. And I'm just going to look to kind of set some of those things up. And really, if I feel good about the face, the rest of his sort of costume kind of fills itself in. But I think the thing that I want to get across over here is that for me it's a lot easier to lay everything out first, and that way I really have the opportunity to look and change and erase and fix. Sometimes you get stuff on the first try right where it needs to be. Other times it takes a little bit of effort and a little bit of patience and going back and fixing things. Again, I don't like spending too much time on any one spot without really working on that area. And since so much of this is about shadows and blackness, and again, you can get lost in the details and spend half an hour on them, but if you don't have everything in the right place in the right time and the right size, the rest of it kind of doesn't matter too much. I'm making a few mistakes here and there, but I'm trying to work fast because I'd like to do another one or two before the end of the period. Yeah, my quick little Batman. Not perfect, not exactly. I probably made his eyes a little bit bigger than they are in the actual drawing, but I don't think anybody will say it doesn't look like Batman. Get the basic rundown of it. Anybody else want a marble one? Any requests? Feel like I got time for one more. Nobody's watching anymore? Anybody out there?
Can you do Harley Quinn?
Sure. Okay, we got over here, we got again like a 3/4 pose. Let me just put that back on the screen. Got a 3/4 pose. She's looking slightly to one side. So this line right here, I'm trying to imagine a line right here, a line that's going to cut right between the eyes and right to the nose, and I want to kind of use that to help get my angle. All right, and now here what I want to do is I kind of want to, get that face. So I'm going to try to look to see. I got this side profile, just like the very first one I did. The very first one I did was a little more cartoony, but I'm looking at this edge here just to try to get, if I imagine this line through it, how much of the face is on one side and how much is the other. It's at this point, with the way her costume is, it's almost like it looks like a shield, almost like an old battle shield. So I'm going to focus on the face first, and then I'm going to add more of the head to it later on. And then now what I'm going to look to is I'm going to try to see from here to here versus here to here. Well, the eyes are up on the higher part, and if I look at them, they're tilted ever so slightly. So I'll create my eye line. I'm going to look at the nose, and I'm going to try to decide, approximately where do I want to put the nose. Again, that like halfway kind of game that I was playing. And then I'm going to sort of lay out just a rough idea of where the mouth is, just to sort of give me a little something to work on or work from. And this way I have something on the paper to react to, and that way I can kind of see if I like it or not. Since her, sort of like outfit here, or the costume part of her face is really a big part of what the face looks like, I'm going to try to rough that in too, just so I can get a little bit more reference on where to place the eyes. I'm going to lay that out, and then on that eye line I'm not going to draw a real detailed eye, but I'm going to try to place where I'd like to place the eyes, and that way I can sort of get a real reference or an idea of where things are going to go. Our eyebrows, and again, I don't know if what I'm drawing is going to look good or look right. What I do know is if I have something on the paper, I can sort of compare it to what I'm trying to draw. So I'm just going to get some of that mask in there and then go from there. All right, I think I've got the basic gist of the face. I realize that I'm probably making these eyes a little bit too low and a little bit too big. So I'm going to sort of move mine up a little bit, and you see like I'm making the difference by making those a little bit darker, and I'll try to clean up some of those other lines from the mistake from earlier. I think I like that a little bit better. I'm going to get the rest of the eyebrows in, or at least a hint at the eyebrows. Taking a look at her nose. Put the basic shape in there. I'll see, does that make sense to me? Do I like that? Does that work? I just got the nostril and the one part over there. I'm gonna rough in a little bit of just some pupils. I'll sort of get it over there. Take a look at the mouth. This side feels like it's got to get up a little bit higher. That looks a little too close. I don't like that. I'm going to go back to what I had originally. That's a little bit better. And give her just a little bit more of a jaw over here and the line that goes underneath there. Alright people, I feel like I've got 5 minutes to get this done, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to lock in over here and see what I think, and then we're going to go to the rapid finish. I've got a little bit of the reference of the lips here, and that kind of, I think I'm just going to go with it now, for the sake of trying to get done. At the Just adjust the nose ever so slightly. A little rhinoplasty over here. I feel like the nose is just a little bit too small. Now the rest of it is really just mostly details. Eyebrows on fleek. Need a little bit more. Alright, and with the big 2-minute finish over here. I'm a little bit rushed, but hey, listen, whatever. You get me for free, so you don't have to make it perfect. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, and then that brings us to the close here. Probably some things I would change and fix if I was spending a little bit more time on that, but I'm not. We will reconvene tomorrow. I'm going to give you guys some time to work on your what's it called, your heads and everything else like that to get those things submitted. And hopefully this was, for those of you who watch, at least mildly entertaining. And that's 4. I just need one more to finish 5 and be able to submit it. So I hope you guys had a good day.